Welcome to the SportsCapping.com podcast with free handicapping advice, odds insights, picks, and predictions to help you beat the sportsbook. And now your hosts, Jack Jones and Brandon Lee.
This is your host, Jack Jones, with our weekly SportsCapping.com free pick podcast. Fellow handicapper Brandon Lee and I are catching fire now. We're 6-0 the last 2 weeks on the podcast. We only had 2 picks last week in college basketball due to the NBA All-Star break. We won them both. Brandon won on North Carolina +9 outright at Duke. I won on Marquette -6 and a 10-point home win over Butler. Welcome back, Brandon. A nice call there on North Carolina.
Yeah, good to be back. We'll never know how good a call it really was, considering Zion Williamson went down in the first 30 seconds. But, that's a break you're going to get every now and then go for you or against you. But I still like North Carolina, even if he had played, and we'll just take it how it is on that one.
Yeah, I think they still covered by like 23 or 25, something like that. So I don't know if he would have made all that difference, but definitely it changed the game a little bit. But I think he deserved that after a couple weeks ago having the Spurs sit their starters.
Right.
So yeah, that was a nice little break.
Definitely made things a lot easier on Luke May down inside.
Yeah, he had a huge game for him. I've now gotten my record to a profitable 6-5 on the Hoops podcast, thanks to 3-0 the last 2 weeks. Brandon's 4-7, but he did go 3-0 the last 2 podcasts, and we're a combined 10-12 on the season still. So it's been a nice comeback, and that's really all we could ask for after our dreadful start in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, it has, Jack. It was really rough going to start off, but things have really turned around both on the podcast and for my premium plays. 62% over the last 18 days. Number 5 NBA over the last 60, 59% over my last 125 NBA plays. Also red hot in college basketball right now, 62% over my last 39 there. So definitely everything heating up going into March. Nicely
done, man. And I know you had a couple bad breaks there early on the podcast. I even had like a half-point loser on TCU that, if everybody probably bet at a line that was a winner too. So, the breaks are starting to go our way now. And, I haven't had exactly the best premium pick run here. I had a huge start to the hoop season. I'm still up over $17,000 for $1,000 per game bettors, but it was better than that. And I've been given a little bit back here so far in 2019, but still a number 1 ranked hoops capper all time here at Sports Capping. Definitely ready to finish this college basketball season strong and finish after the All-Star break strong too, and can't wait for these conference tournaments coming up and the NCAA tournament and everything we have to look forward to here. But if we can get another 4-0 week this week, we can get back to the black for the season on this podcast. That's our goal, and I like the 4 picks we got lined up for you guys this week. We're using the opening lines from Tuesday at BetOnline to give you 2 free picks in college basketball and 2 in the NBA for Wednesday, February 27th. Brandon, give the listeners your NBA free pick for Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the team that burned me early. I'm going to take the San Antonio Spurs -4.5 at home against the Detroit Pistons. It couldn't have gone much worse for the Spurs on their annual rodeo road trip. San Antonio went just 1-7 on the 8-game track. That was sandwiched around the All-Star break. The last 2 were especially embarrassing. They lost 130-118 to the Knicks, who had lost like 18 games in a row at home. And then last time on Monday, they lost 101-85 at Brooklyn, which is probably one of their worst offensive showings of the season. Needless to say, the perception with the Spurs right now is about as bad as it's been in quite a while. And I believe that's, playing into the Spurs showing a lot of value here as a small home favorite. The fact that San Antonio struggled on the road shouldn't really be a huge surprise. They were just 10-15 on the road going into that road trip. So it's not like they were playing great away from home. It's just a different team when they suit up at the AT&T Center. The Spurs are 22-7 at home this season. Only the Bucks, Raptors, and Nuggets have fewer losses on their home floor. The players have come out and said how disappointed they are with, how they played. And, one thing's for sure, we can bank on a big effort here from San Antonio. And also keep in mind that the Spurs played 6 of those 8 games on their road trip without starting point guard Derek White. He returned late in the trip and was on a bit of a minutes restriction, a little rusty those first couple games. I expect a much bigger role here in his third game back and, on the home court. So, and, speaking of Detroit, the Pistons come in having won 3 straight and are 7-1 in their last 8 games, a stretch in which they've gone 6-2 against the spread. I think that's definitely another factor playing into this short number we're getting. I'm just not a big believer in the Pistons. I think this run has come during a very, very favorable stretch in their schedule. Pistons are not a good road team by any means. They're just 11-17 away from home and have covered just twice in their last 8 road games against a team that's won more than 60% of their home games. Give me the Spurs minus 4.5.
Yeah, man, this definitely feels like a good buy low, sell high spot here with the Spurs. Buying low on the Spurs after losing 7 of 8 and 10 of their last 11 against the spread. And definitely a good time to sell high on Detroit after going 7-1 straight up in their last 8. Pistons have only beaten 2 teams with winning records during the stretch, and both were at home. Spurs being 22-7 at home this season, it definitely feels like a bounce back spot for them. I think Derek White is one of those players that kind of flies under the radar a little bit for them, but from all accounts, I mean, he's one of their most important players, so getting him back's huge. Spurs 7-1 straight up, 6-2 against the spread their last 8 meetings with the Pistons, so this is one I strongly considered here myself.
Right on. Yeah, and you never know with Popovich, but they are playing with the day off, and they don't play again until Saturday, so we shouldn't have any starters sitting out this time. If that does happen by who knows what, for whatever reason, definitely think twice, maybe contact Jack or someone and about the line or anything if it's still recommended.
Yeah, definitely. Always can contact me on Twitter at BetFirmsJack for those questions. And yeah, I always like taking teams also when they got 2 days off coming up. Or even more than that, just because they're going to be focused.
Right.
No doubt the Spurs will be focused for this one. So hopefully they can get off the schneid here and get us a win and cover. I'm going to take the Lakers minus 5.5 at home against the Pelicans. I really like the spot for the Lakers Wednesday night. They're coming off back-to-back upset road losses to the Pelicans and Grizzlies. Now they have a chance to avenge their loss to the Pelicans only 4 days after losing to them on Saturday. Lakers have now played 8 of their last 9 games on the road. In their only home game during this stretch, they upset the Rockets by 5 as 3-point home underdogs. Their first game back from the break there. Lakers 17-12 at home this season. Pelicans just 9-23 on the road. Home team 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread the last 4 meetings. Favorites also 7-1 against the spread the last 8 meetings. I just think we get a big effort from LeBron James and company at home Wednesday night as they try to chase down that 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I definitely would lean this way. This feels like almost a must-win for the Lakers, given how they've played here of late. I don't know that I'll pull the trigger. I really thought the Lakers were going to bounce back against Memphis, a team that I'm not very high on right now, and for them to lose with LeBron getting a triple-double, it's a bit of a concern for me. You got LeBron and Rondo both calling out the young guys for numerous things, whether it be their effort defensively, being too accustomed to losing, not having a sense of urgency of being a playoff team. And I think there's some sort of disconnect right now between the vets and the young guys. I wonder if some of that maybe stems from, all those young guys getting rumored in the trade for Davis leading up to that trade deadline. With that said, I mean, this is a team that the Lakers should beat at home and should beat by more than the number here. So I'll be rooting you in, and it's probably going to take me one more, maybe a couple wins here for the Lakers for me to get back on board. But this is definitely a good spot for them.
Yeah, definitely. You got that negative media surrounding them right now. I think that plays into it a little bit too. So, and usually when a team has some little bit of infighting, most of the time they come out and correct it. But we'll see if they do, and I hope they do for us Wednesday night. What do you like in college basketball for Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Florida Gators -5 on the road against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Florida really didn't live up to expectations early on this season, and I think a lot of people wrote them off. And, with all the firepower the SEC has this year, the early struggles are a distant memory right now. Florida comes in playing arguably their best basketball of the season. The Gators have won 4 straight and are now 8-6 in SEC play. And based on, Lunardi's current projections, will be a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, which, is a good thing that they're in, but it's also, one of those things where a couple losses and they could be out. So there's definitely a sense of urgency with Florida, which, I think is huge going into a game like this against a lesser opponent. I do believe they're showing some value here because they are just 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 games. And they certainly didn't play their best basketball last time out against Missouri, having to rally from 12 down in the second half to sneak out a 64-60 win as a 10-point favorite. But that really shouldn't come as a big surprise. That was a massive letdown spot for Florida coming off that overtime win at LSU. That actually should work in our favor here. I think it lessens the likelihood that they're going to overlook the Commodores. And that's really the only thing in what I see that could really keep Florida from winning and covering the spread here. Vanderbilt hasn't won a conference game all season. They're 0-14 in league play. They're 0-7 in SEC play at home. All but 2 of those losses at home have come by at least 9 points. They did cover last time out in a 7-point loss as an 8.5-point dog at Alabama. But they're just 2-12 against the spread in their last 14 overall after covering in their previous game. And they're 9-23 last 32 at home. Florida won the first meeting by 9 at home, despite only shooting 33% from the field and 23% from deep. Their defense really was the difference in that game. They stifled the Commodores' offense and forced Vandy into 19 turnovers. It hasn't gotten any better for the Vanderbilt offense of late. They're come in averaging 56.8 points per game and shooting 37% from the field in their last 5. I just think Florida's the hot team right now. I still think they're flying under the radar, and I think they cover the 5.
Yeah, man, I agree. They are going to be playing with a sense of urgency here. Commodores have to feel beaten down after losing 15 straight now, and they have managed to cover 4 of their last 6, and they did lose only by 9 at Florida, which are my 2 main concerns. But you pointed out Florida shot terrible in that game, and I still think Florida, if I had to choose, would be the right side here. And you nailed it. Vanderbilt just hasn't had any home court advantage the past few seasons. The 9-23 ATS record, lost 32 home games. Definitely won't be playing this one myself, but if I had to take it, I'd take Florida with you.
Right on, man. Who you taking?
I'm going to go to the Missouri Valley. I'm going to take Northern Iowa -1.5 at home against Loyola Chicago. The Northern Iowa Panthers have been flying under the radar. They're 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread their last 4 games. Odds makers have missed the mark big time with this team. All 4 wins have come by double digits. They beat Valparaiso by 11 and Illinois State by 13 at home, as well as upset road wins over Missouri State by 20 and Evansville by 15. They've covered the spread by a total of 59 points in the last 4 games, or by an average of nearly 15 points per game. That's just how far the books have been off on this team. And don't look now, but they're only 1 game back for a first place in the Missouri Valley. Loyola Chicago gets a lot of respect, I think, after making the Final Four last year. But these Ramblers aren't nearly as good as that team, and they're struggling of late. They're 1-3 straight up, 1-3 against the spread the last 4. Their only cover came by a point at Evansville. They were upset by 10 against Southern Illinois. Also upset at home by Missouri State by 7, or as 7-point favorites, and they were upset by Bradley as 3-point road favorites as well. The Ramblers are now 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread their last 5 road games. Their 4 losses have come by 15 points per game. Their only win came at Valparaiso as 3-point favorites and a 5-point win. They needed a big second half to pull off that win even. And Northern Iowa clearly wants revenge. They lost 61-60 at Loyola in their first meeting this season. Panthers 6-1 straight up, 5-1-1 against the spread their last 7 home games. I think they're showing excellent value here at home Wednesday night in a game. They basically just have to win to cover.
Yeah, no arguments from me here. I've mentioned it before, I think when you gave out Missouri State and we're spot on, I just don't cover a lot of the Missouri Valley. So I just don't have a huge insight on teams like this. I definitely, agree with all your points and, statistics that you're throwing out here. One thing I did notice and that I kind of like is the fact that it's UNI's last home game, so it's senior night. So that should add a little extra incentive. And then, not a real surprise that the Ramblers are struggling. given all the success they had last year, they had a massive target on their back, and they just clearly haven't been able to handle the pressure, and I don't think they will here, so I'll be rooting you in on this one as well.
Awesome, man. That's a point I missed there, being senior night for Northern Iowa. I appreciate throwing that little 2 cents in. Definitely like backing teams on senior night, especially this spot here in a revenge spot, and I just think it's a great spot for them, and I like how they're playing right now, so glad you agree.
Senior night means the conference tournaments are right around the corner. I believe some of them might even start next week. So.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Missouri Valley does start sooner than the rest of, or most of them, and that makes sense why there's some senior nights here in the Missouri Valley, whereas most of the other conferences probably won't be for another few games to where you get a few senior nights. But anyways, let's keep it rolling and at least get a 3-1 card here for the listeners. I like all 4 of our picks here, and I think we have a good chance of sweeping the board for a 3rd straight week.
Yeah, we'll take another winning card and would love another 4-0, but we'll just keep the winners coming for you guys, and best of luck, guys.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for coming on, and definitely like your 2 picks this week, especially the Spurs. That's going to wrap up this week's Free Pick podcast. Sign up for a premium package from Brandon and I at sportscapping.com or betfirm.com. Hit me up on Twitter at betfirmsjack. Subscribe to us on iTunes, and please feel free to leave a review. We'll be back with 4 more free picks next Wednesday for you guys.
Thanks for listening to the SportsCapping.com podcast. For more free picks and predictions, be sure to visit us at SportsCapping.com.